issue.
Yeah, so let's go to the phones here. 740. We're going to catch up with Vice Speaker Telena Nelson and bring her onto the show. Good morning, Vice.
Hi, good morning.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Bree. Good morning,
Hey,
Chris.
it's been a while. How you been?
Super busy.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just give you the floor for a couple minutes and tell us the stuff that's on your radar and what you're working on.
Sure, yeah. So we've, the second term, I really wanted to focus more on rehabilitation and addiction. And so one of the things we're trying to understand is the prescription monitoring program. And we've been on calls since the beginning of the term trying to improve the prescription monitoring program because of the opioid crisis. You know, we don't talk about it a lot, but we do have opioid crisis here on Guam and here nationally, and it's really the gateway to a lot of other drug abuse and drug use. And you know, everyone in our family or everyone we know someone either in our family or we know a friend who is suffering through drug abuse or substance abuse, and very little intervention or rehabilitation is invested in these programs to help them, if they want to get clean, to rehabilitate, to find a job, find a home. And there's just very little emphasis on it. And especially during this budget season, I really want to see what we can do to improve this program and perhaps require prescribers to really take a look at the history of the individual when they prescribe medication and really stay true to the law where they can only prescribe a non-refillable amount for 7 days. I've known some people that have told me that when they go to the doctor for an injury or a pre-existing injury that reoccurs, they get more than a 7-day dose of like Percocet or Oxycontin. And, you know, especially during this time of COVID, there were a lot of trends that have gone up. Social issues trends like alcohol use, drug use, and so it's just really it's a social matter, and you know it's something that's very close to my heart to want to do something to help our community with. And so you know this is a policy route. I mean, we could do so much more. With this whole COVID, I've seen the enormous power and authority that the executive branch can hold, and I was really impressed that if you really wanted to do anything, you could. If you were, in the executive branch, if you were the executive, you could do it really, at the snap of a finger. It's just a matter of where your priorities are. So that's something we want to do, and we also want to. We're also looking at the schools because this is very important. The schools closed earlier this year because of COVID, and the graduates, had this quasi drive-through kind of graduation, not really having the opportunity to traditionally celebrate their accomplishments. And so we want to see with GDOE and the charter schools how they're going to implement the next school year. Now, this is not an issue singularly to Guam. All the schools across America are trying to get feedback, and there are concerns about how we're going to move forward with scheduling and with technology, and really how is it going to impact the family life and the curriculum construct of education. So we're having hearings coming up just to get a deeper look into that and how they came up and formulated the board, came up and formulated that process.
Vice.
Oh, and
yeah,
doing budget.
Go ahead. The budget.
Yes, the budget.
Right.
This is really interesting. The budget is, I am amazed because it's like the agencies are coming forward, and some of them are asking for a significant increase, and that's natural, but we're not really, I hate to say this, but I'm confused because am I just? It's like I'm not seeing this picture where we haven't had revenue for 4 months, and we're not really talking about this in detail.
Yeah, we've
right?
been trying
And the
to
impact.
we've been trying to get the budget chair to come on and talk about it, but I think he just doesn't want to badmouth the administration, because you're right. We're creating a whole new budget based on outdated information,
So have you guys not
dangerously outdated.
has the legislature not received at this point a revised revenue projection? Because I mean, the one that was submitted in January was a nearly $1 billion budget, and the last time we spoke with Senator Joe San Augustine, he said that he was meeting with the financial people up at Adelup.
Yeah, that's the last we heard.
To go over the numbers and talk about the revenue projection. I mean, if you're going to put together a budget, you got to know what you're dealing with. So,
Right. So
Yeah.
has there been any update on that?
I've been following the executive budget request that was sent down months ago, and it seems that the numbers are the same. I'm not in the Office of Finance and Budget Committee, so I'm not really privy to that. But I haven't seen any change in the budget, or any different type of approach. We've just my short time here, we've been doing this status quo budget. This traditional funding of operations, this traditional ensuring that the government's rent or leases are paid. But I'm hoping that perhaps the executive branch could lead with the Office of Finance and Budget and reconstruct how we do budget. And in different countries, they take an analysis of the core issues in the country, and then they focus the money on that and those programs, so we see something tangible. New Zealand, for example, I went on this Pacific Parliamentary Forum, and what they do is that one of the issues that they had was child welfare. And so the issues surrounding child welfare was drug addiction, domestic violence, education, and homelessness. And so what they did was they took this data that they collected, and then they focused all programs around building and developing and providing solutions that we could actually see, that are tangible, that are concrete, that protect children. And so we're not really focused in that sense. Yes, agencies do have programs, but like you brought up earlier, the homelessness issue, we haven't really seen any movement on homelessness, and small amounts are spent to really invest in the people. So, especially with the impact of COVID, people have lost their jobs. Our economy is changing because of the global impact. And so I think we just need to sit back and just really restructure how we do our budget. I've talked about it several times, just hoping the seed will start to, sprout a little bit in the executive branch and those that are in the Office of Finance and Budget, the committee of that.
Yeah, we haven't heard from the Office of Finance and Budget chair since he told us he was going to go to that meeting in Adelup. I think they might have kidnapped him and they put out a body double or something, because that's the last we heard from him. Or either that or they gave him a good talking to, and they said, Joe San Augustine, you better not go on that containing COVID and question our numbers anymore, because that's the last we heard. I've been reaching out to him for 2 weeks. Literally, I've been messaging him. I've been messaging Joe Meskin. They just no response, or I'll check, and so it's frustrating.
Yeah,
but it's election year, so I'm just trying to give him a way to come on and explain why you think that we're here with thousands of people out of work, government revenues drastically down, but we're still trying to pass $1 billion budget.
I think that, I don't think it. From my observation, it's just like last term. The executive budget comes out with a large request, and then they put it on us and say, okay, do what you need to do with it and appropriate. And I don't know, I've never seen us really go with the executive budget that has been submitted. I know we've always cut, and Speaker BJ at the time was always really good at finding that right number where he knew that the government would still be able to function and there wouldn't be any impact into operations. But I think that's probably perhaps that's what he's trying to get a handle on, and he doesn't want to speak prematurely. But I don't know. That's just what I would think.
Mm-hmm. But what are you seeing though? You've been in the legislature, like you said, this is your second term, I believe. What are your thoughts on how the government is doing financially, and what we're looking at ahead? I mean, are we looking at the possibility of furloughs to sustain the government and keep it running?
I really don't know the answer to that, because everything's changing, and it's really hard to put the tail on the donkey, because the governor just extended, her executive power again, and extended the PCOR too, and so I don't see any revenue coming in. We need to start looking elsewhere to find a source of revenue. We need to start investing, in agriculture or horticulture, and start really doing all those things that the executive branch talked about, like advancing our telecommunications, being a data hub. Start really moving towards those lines of revenue, because COVID has impacted us globally. And if we continue to rely on tourism to sustain us, I think that it's not a safe it's not a safe presumption.
Definitely a great time to diversify. Vice, we know you got oversight of the airport. There are obviously some big changes over there. Just can we get your 2 cents on everything that occurred within the last week, from the resignation of Tom Atta to the board putting in JQ as
John Canetta. I mean, that's what he was known.
John Canetta, and then Ricky Hernandez is the deputy over the airport. He went from like the controller to the deputy or so. Anyway, what's your take on this? Have you been able to kind of pierce the veil and find out anything at all about the chain of events that transpired in the last week?
I was surprised when Tom resigned, and I found out through the news, just like everyone else, and there's a lot of rumors, but I don't like speaking about rumors. It's just I'm more of a fact person, and perhaps that's my military discipline. Is you verify all of the things that you hear, and so we did attend the board meeting. I had a representative, and it was basically just a thank you to Mr. Atta and then general operations, and so I don't want to presume anything until we see concrete facts.
Yeah, I'd asked the lieutenant governor about this the day that we learned, or was it the day of or the day after?
It was, well, the abrupt announcement was made the night before, and then we spoke with him the following day.
I spoke with Lieutenant Governor Josh the following day, and I asked him if he had heard about any complaints that were filed against Tom Atta while he was the airport executive manager, and I think his response was, "Oh no, nothing like that." But those are the rumors, and I'm glad you're working to verify that. So I guess next question: are you confident in the leadership that we now have in place at the airport?
Okay.
All right.
They've been appointed there. Apparently, they feel that these issues that we're going to foresee and do see as the impact because of flights not coming in, or our tourism economy hurting. They're there for a reason. So I'd like to give them the opportunity. JQ, is a former military man, so he's very familiar with operations. He's very familiar with working with individuals, with people, you know, and I think he has the capability to step up to the plate, and with his background as far as logistics, maneuvering, I think he can do a good job.
And what about the Doogie Howser of the administration? Ricky Hernandez.
I can't believe you said that.
Are you old enough to have this job, dude?
Oh my goodness. He was over at the legislature for a while, right?
I know, and I'm just kidding. You know me.
I know you.
But Doogie Howser was a smart doctor too, so
right,
it's more of a compliment.
It is. It's just that he looks so young, and
yeah, that's probably a blessing that God gave him. So.
Right.
But he's very smart. He's a smart guy. I have a lot of respect for him. Many times we've talked, and we shared ideas, or you know, and he basically helped me to understand the government's finances. He was very thorough when he was working at the legislature on, you know, seeing all of the gaps in the government's finances, and so that's how we Speaker BJ, I believe, would rely on him to really understand what would be that number that we would appropriate when the executive branch would.
Well, I know they should have transferred him to the legislature. Then it sounds like we need help figuring out the budget, because you know, Senator Joseph Augustine is just taking Adelu's word for it.
It just seems so interesting that they would move him out, especially considering the Guam Economic Development Authority. Their role in all of this is extremely important as we try to get our economy back up and running. And they just started that program that the governor created for small businesses to apply for grants with the $20 million, I think, in CARES Act funding. And you know, he made the announcement, and then he up and left over to the airport.
Right, so. and I think if, you know, because there was even a Facebook post the administration did, and they're just like, oh, he's a decorated financial hero, or I can't think of the right word, but that's not where you put a deputy. You don't put a guy like that in a deputy director slot. You don't. We see the other deputy directors. I mean, like Bobby Alvarez is deputy director material, Richard Ibanez. I mean, there are people you put in the deputy director slot, and I know he was deputy at GITA, but they treated him like he was the top dog there. So I just wanted to get your take on that.
Do you know who is the new deputy at GITA, by any chance?
I do not know.
Yeah,
I do not know who replaced. Yeah.
We know that Bobby Alvarez is apparently one of these guys who, I don't know, if you're like the deputy at GVB and they bring in a new deputy, Jerry Perez is now the deputy. I just thought Bobby had left the administration.
But yeah, he's over at GITA. I don't know if he's the deputy, but
I don't know what he's doing. But they mentioned him in the press conference, and
he's working on aquaculture.
Right. Yeah.
And diversifying.
So you were talking earlier, Vice, about diversifying the economy, and one of those things, those words they always talk about, is aquaculture and the fisheries. And so I think the governor had said Bobby Alvarez has experience in fisheries. I don't even know if we have fisheries on Guam. I don't even know if we have aquaculture. Yeah. But I think what she meant is I seen him in a fishing pole at the beach, so maybe that's his experience. He goes fishing.
Go fishing a lot.
Yeah, I go fishing a lot. Put me in there. Put me in, coach. But obviously, he's just one of these guys who kisses it so good that they want to keep him around.
Well, I haven't seen Bobby do anything bad, and so
have you seen him do anything good?
Well,
all right.
I think maybe. I think Ricky is one of those guys where you need when there's a, he's that utility player, right?
Yeah.
So he went and he helped out a lot in GITA and crafted this loan program with everyone there, and so maybe we need to, because the airport is also a big part of our economy.
Right. Yeah.
They make a lot of money, and so maybe okay, now we need to move our utility player here. Ricky is really good and versatile in that way.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I see what you're saying.
Maybe he might get moved again to another agency that will need his assistance. Right. I mean, I would see that. I would do the same thing. I would, if I was the governor, I would put my best player and my utility player in, and move them around to fix things and make sure programs get going. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of rookies.
Right. There's one. There's one rookie.
Rookies, I think we'd be better off.
Maybe they should let him do double duty, like Tim Huggins now doing double duty as Homeland Security Advisor and Veterans Affairs. Jess Garcia's Deputy of Public Works. And is that the way? I wonder if that's going to be the new way. Everybody talking about government revenues and wise use of taxpayers' dollars. Are we just going to start having people head like 3-4 agencies at the same time? I wonder. But Vice, we got to run top of the hour.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Opportunity to speak about the prescription monitoring program, and so hopefully we can get that going.
Amen.
Right.
Yeah, I feel you on that one, Vice. Thank you.
Right.
Let's make it a habit. Let's make it a habit. We'll see you next week.
God bless.
Okay. Wash your hands.
That was quick.
Let's keep it on the phones and stay in the legislature and bring on Minority Senator Louise Munia. Good morning, Senator.
At the hour, I love it.
There you go.
Good morning.
Yeah, we're KUAM FM in Agotnya, Guam. It's containing COVID, the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite. Good morning to our TV 11 viewers. And also, you can catch the show right here on the radio. There's also an audio stream, Docomo Channel 10, KUAM.com, the KUAM News app, and on KUAM TV 11. It's all brought to you by IT&E, Ambrose Inc., Calvo Enterprises, Coast 360, and the Bank of Guam. On the line now, Minority Senator Louise Munia.